back with more. I say more as if this isn't the second one of the two I've done, and probably I don't know what else I could rank. The Danganronpa core games tier list. Interesting choice to have both Fuyuhiko in here. Anyway, but which Junko is which? Okay, well, let's not worry about all that. Let's get to when we get to it. I didn't modify any of this yet, but I'm gonna see if I can modify them. Let me add some personality to this. How about that? How about those for tiers, huh? Okay, very interesting. I guess is it alphabetical? It is alphabetical. Akane, Anji. So I'll do it in alphabetical because it's in alphabetical. So whatever. Hungry ass. Muscle head. Is that can I say that? I guess I can. I thought that really bothers me. She's just there. Akane literally just exists. She makes it to the end of the game by existing. She has a few okay moments. She isn't too stupid, but I'm a fan of her. Like, literally, she's like a dog girl bit. She has a backstory of like essentially being raised in some real fucked up environment, but that she doesn't really like treat it as that. That's just sort of her life to her. So we don't really end up. It doesn't become relevant to her character at all, which is fine. Like, I don't think it's. Like, it's okay if it's just played for laughs. It's just played for laughs. That's okay. But people could be pissed off by that. I can imagine a lot of people probably are when they went on like free time with her and heard about how she was treated, and then what goes on in the like how that never gets addressed. I can understand being irritated by that. I don't really care. But she's just there. She literally is just there by making it through the entire game. I have very little to say about Akane. She's cute. Okay, let's move on. Anji, okay, so I need to get don't. This is like the don't care tier. I'm gonna say annoying but tolerable, right? I think Anji is annoying but tolerable. She's not quite make the game worse by existing, but she definitely is like. I mean, my patience is already not gonna be very thick. One might call it thin for the religious like. Not quite prophet. I don't know what priest, disciple type of person, right? I'm very much a fan of like, you know, you do you, but you do not do me. You get what I mean, right? And like in the beginning, I was like, she's cute, and then eventually I was like, somebody needs to. Like do something about it, especially when she started like creating a religious uprising and converting people. I was very much like, okay, you gotta fuck off for sure. But it was like a good fuck off. Like this is what this character does. So I'm tempted to put her up there, but she herself doesn't have anything. Her bit is the religion, and you know that's fine. In fact, she was sort of a wasted character. Yeah, she's fine. I think I'm tempted to put her higher. Interesting or just cute, I think is, I gotta put that tier. Whether they're interesting or whether I just like them because I think they're cute. I think that's a fair analysis of my assumption. Asahina is perfectly just there. I think she goes higher because she's not quite interesting, but she does at least have somewhat of a character arc. She goes from being stupid to being stupid, but like having a reason to do something because of Sakura, which is, you know, as much as you could ask for, I suppose. She makes the game drag on by asking redundant questions and not understanding basic things, but like that's sort of her point, right? And I think it's, I don't besmirch her for that necessarily. She's hot. That's, you know, that's a plus, I suppose. But like, I think she's much more endearing outside of when she's being combative, which is why I think like you could convince me to move her down the ladder if she didn't have the character arc with Sakura. I think that puts her quite up. That bumps her above everybody who's like literally just there, and she also makes it to the end of the game. So, you know, whatever, right? Byakuya, my goat for real. I love him. I love, you know, him aura farming. Let me get the crop right. I think it's probably pissing people off. His character realizing that he can trust and people not understanding the hope and trust people place in each other, and then, you know, sort of begrudgingly accepting that in the end of the game, being, you know, intelligent yet but like not quite standoffish, sort of like one level below sociopathy, something like that, right? I'm a huge Byakuya fan. Damare, you know, I love him. I think Celeste is literally interesting, and I'm gonna say and or just cute. She is cute, she is interesting, she's like a, what did they used to call it? Do people still use wearaboo, or is that like a banned term? That's like a World War II thing. She's not quite that. No, that I've looked that up. I shouldn't have said it. I think that's like a relic of the past. I've revealed what kind, like how I've browsed the internet like a decade ago plus. But she's not quite that. Like, although that's pretty common. Like the actual, like, romanticizing that era of Germany, asterisk, M brackets. The era of Germany you should not be romanticizing. Controversial take, don't romanticize the era of Germany. But although whatever, I don't really, you know, it's just don't do it in my face. Keep it out of my business. I'm digging myself a hole here. Fuck off. But she's cute. She's LARPing as a German princess. She's in gambling debt and wants to buy a castle. I like her like matter-of-factness and directness. They could have done a better job with her killing, her like murders, right? Anyway, Chiaki. I love Chiaki. Chiaki's so good. Her and Nagito basically single-handedly make the terrible trials of Goodbye Despair, of which there are a few, worth it. Basically, single-handedly carries a lot of like the trials by being matter-of-fact, being a nice like bounce-off mirror for Hajime to discuss things with. Should have had a romantic involvement with Hajime. Don't know why they didn't do that. Makes no sense. Anyway. Suffice to say, I'm a big fan of Gamer Wife right here. And it's a shame that she's not real, but they're all not real, so what does it matter? You know, she's more not real. She's more fictional than the fictional characters. Guess that's a plus. Chihiro, interesting and cute. people get into, I don't know what it was like back in the day, and people now, it's not in my like algorithm or feed or interests to dig up decade-old discourse about, where does Chihiro fit on the sliding scale of identity, right? I think suffice to say, whatever Chihiro is, she's cute to me or he's cute to me. Whichever ends up being your preferred interpretation, I think you can take what you want, right? Or they, I suppose, introduce whatever descriptor you want. Chihiro is cute. And the programmer stuff is also very cute. The alter ego and like how much impact that the programming that Chihiro does is actually like very crucial to this whole story. In fact, to the point like it literally saves Makoto's life, allows the dismantling and like disassembly of Junko, is what they use to fight back against Junko in Goodbye Despair. Like Chihiro lives on past the like expected lifespan of what you might consider sort of a quote-unquote filler character, right? But I guess it's not a filler character because of the relevance that Chihiro maintains. But I think, also the way that the chapter in which Chihiro dies is also very like, I love the imagery that Byakuya implanted, of course, and overall, I think the only reason that I wouldn't place Chihiro higher up is just like not that present, and that's fine. Not every character needs to be my best. Naturally, the characters that make it through the whole game are gonna be easier to like in some cases, right? In some cases. Anyway. Imposter Byakuya is literally just there. No idea why the imposter chose to be Byakuya. We know nothing about the actual person behind the imposter. Exists, takes charge, and dies. Literally nothing else left to say. We don't know enough to even make a judgment. I think healed Kuzuryu is great. Maybe the lowest in the I love them tier, but certainly becomes interesting, becomes useful, is trying his hardest to participate, but doesn't lose some of that like roughness. Also, being like a short, little boy, what do you call it? Yakuza leader, heir apparent to the Yakuza, is also very cool, Very, very cool. What else? His little character arc is, it's short and sweet and satisfying enough. Thankfully happens early enough that we don't have to deal with, where is he? This version, who's definitely in the annoying but tolerable tier. Him being all like standoffish and like, I don't want to talk to you guys. You go back up there. Is very like nothing burger, and so they did the right thing. I mean, listen, part of why he's here is because he once was here. That's called change, bro. It's called change. Look it up. Gonta's just there. Gonta's better than a lot of the other just theirs, in my opinion, because of how he is used by other characters and manipulated. His stupidity is at least a vehicle for other characters to do things, which makes him more interesting. But I can't say I care for bugs at all. Australians, we have our biases about bugs. In fact, a lot of people love the spiders and treat the wildlife very well, Steve Irwin style. I can't say I'm too attached to the bugs particularly, or really many of the wildlife. Not many, some annoying. We have some pests and some critters, but the birds are great. You start there and whatever. I'm off track. My point being that Gonta's sort of just around. Like, I don't have anything for him or against him, really. I think the best thing about him is literally what other characters did with him. And so, he isn't interesting, really, by himself. But that's, you know, would I count that? No, because I would put all of that on a later character who is definitely going to be top shelf, right? Gundam is terrible, but half of his lines are actually reasonable, and he doesn't go out in the worst way. He has a reasonable killing as well. His murder, the murder he commits, is reasonable. So he's not quite makes the game worse by existing, because at least like a third of his lines are actually like poignant prose about the moment that's like you could probably adapt to a poem, and then the other half, I know I said a third, the other 2/3 is just like Chunibyo bullshit, and his like Elite Four hamsters of death will do something. Like, it's funny the first 10 times, and then it becomes annoying, and then you just start like clicking through them as soon as they show up on your screen, which is fine, but that's why he's annoying but tolerable, because like whatever. Hajime is the worst protagonist of the 3 that we get, and I don't really have any particular connection, but he is at least interesting because of the end of the game. He would have literally been just there for most of it, because we know nothing about him, and then we know one thing about him is that he's a reserve student, which is like, I found that quite annoying of a reveal, because I thought part of the interest of the mystery was like what ultimate talent he has. And it's like, oh, he has no ultimate talent. Okay, are they gonna do anything interesting with the fact that he's a reserve student? Kind of. In the end, he survives because they use him to basically resurrect psychologically and spiritually resurrect Izuru, who is like ultra evil guy. But Izuru is not him. He's a different guy. You know what I mean? So it's not the same character. And then in the end, he goes Super Saiyan, which is barely earned. It's earned, but like by the skin of your teeth earned. So I don't really care, right? You know, I feel like he deserves his own tier of like. He's okay. He's like one step above a self-insert of VN protagonist, of which there are some. You know, some by I mean many, but. I don't know, he has a good thing going with Chiaki, and then they don't follow through with it to the maximum extent, you know? He's like close to being here. He's actually ruined by the pacing of Danganronpa 2. Anyway, Hifumi, he's between these two. I'm not really annoyed by his bit, so I'm gonna put him just there. I can respect putting him in annoying but tolerable. I certainly don't think he's that bad as to make the game worse by existing. But that's just like my bias. He doesn't really do much. He makes a bunch of jokes, and then he dies. Okay, joke character. Like, a lot of, like, perfectly forgettable. Not forgettable, but, like, ignorable. Sayonji is close to this, but she probably just barely scrapes by being, you know, cute, and her bond with Heru, I think, is interesting enough to warrant her, like, at least being above Gundam, who does fuck all. But the fact that she's so mean to Tsumiki really irritates me as somebody who loves Tsumiki, right? And I gotta add another tier. I'm realizing. Add a row above, and then let me edit this one to I don't know. I'll edit this one to this, and then I'll edit this one to that. How do I word this? There we go. Second round draft of I Love Them. So like I love them, but not as much as I love the characters that I really love them. So I think you have to go down, you get to go up, and then we've ordered it in a way that makes perfect sense to me. Right? I think this makes sense. There we go. And as for who did I just add that made me want to do this in the first place? Oh yeah, I was just talking about annoying but tolerable. Her bit is okay, but it does get a little annoying, and he also doesn't do very much. But I do think the fact that she sort of tries her best and like is incompetent as well. I think if they have done with her what they did with Kuzuryu and tried to actually make her like begrudgingly talk to and get along with people, they did that, but then she kept calling Tsumiki like ugly pig. You know, Gerobuta type shit. To that, I was just like, okay, well then you don't get my grace. You know, you might get others, but not mine. So you're here. Anyway, I think Quirk Chungus, flashy character, probably a pain in the ass to cosplay. Ibuki Miura. I love her more and more as she might even be up here. As the game progressed, I ended up loving her bit a lot more. Her like varied energy, the spice, the like genuine enjoyment and like glee she brings to the interactions is a lot of fun, right? And the fact that her music is so underground, like her new style of music that no one even likes it, is also just like a cherry on top of the bit. She got killed for no reason, and it's a big shame. Her design is great. She's cute. She doesn't do much, but I think for a character that doesn't do much, what she provides is like a bit of refreshing like energy, which I enjoy. Right, I enjoy it quite a bit, which is what I think. Literally, I prefer her to Hajime for most of the game. He farms at the very end. He doesn't do shit otherwise. She is also a better version of Celeste, even though they're not really the same kind of character at all. So I mean, I made a pointless claim. You made the game worse by existing. I don't know why they did this to you. You became annoying. Taka after the like transformation ritual or whatever. He absorbed Mondo's spirit through ChatGPT. Explain this to me. Grok Imagine 200.0 nonsense. I don't give a shit about. I barely cared about you before, and I certainly don't care about you after. You're annoying but tolerable, Taka, for sure. His bit is annoying but tolerable, and that's where I land. I mean, it's like a preference thing. He fits in the merry band of like, you know, high school fellas that you might run into in real life. You know, hall monitor type guy. Ultimate hall monitor for sure. We don't have hall monitors in Australia, I don't think. At least I never had them. My existence, some fucked up school for fuck ups, I guess. But yeah, I don't know why they did this to you. They make you inherently worse. I don't know which Junko this is and which Junko this is. I think this must be. One of these is despair and one of these is not despair. I don't remember. Like, this might be the Junko that we know. Like, the one that we interact with that gets shot up with beams of iron. Which is, you're kind of just there. Maybe... like there. You don't exist for very long, and you're not really a real character in the first place. So, whatever. This is, I think, despair because we see the Monokuma ones, right? I think the I wouldn't put them in I love them, but certainly an interesting character. As not a terrible antagonist, right? Pretty good antagonist. Kibo. Is it a coincidence? Oh no, we have some characters from V3 here. It's sort of like it's literally only Anji and Gonta. Like the numbers were a bit skewed up until that point. Kibo is actually pretty good, all things considered. I didn't think I would like Kibo as much as I ended up liking Kibo. As a robot, his bit never really gets old. The robophobic bit, it's sort of evergreen for me. And the fact that he's actually like the channel for the audience in V3, and the inner voice is like us in a manner of speaking, and when it stops, his true self comes out and he wants to shut this whole thing down. I think they do a lot of good things with him. For a robotic character, he has a lot of like presence and provides like a nice calmness and groundedness, and if a little sort of like, you know, like I think what he always says something sensible, even if he's short-sighted and doesn't have like that much cognitive capacity despite being a robot. I think he's quite good. I like him a fair amount. Junko is not actually that compelling, but she's sort of like she's a fine villain. If you could put Monokuma as a character of Monokuma's own, which is technically Junko but not Junko, I would put Monokuma in top shelf. I love Monokuma. I would put Monokuma up here for sure. Add additional images will be included in your download. I want to do this, but I don't want to show everything. So just for a second here. There we go. Perfect. And now I can put Monokuma in I love them tier. I love Monokuma. All iterations of Monokuma. I'm just a fan of the humor and the noises and the quirky little guy. He's cut off a bit in this, but I like him a lot. Suffice to say. Kaede, I love Kaede as well. She may be in top round of second draft because she just doesn't stick around for long enough, but what we get from her is great. She's like a kind of a freak in a few lines, but we don't get to explore that very much, which is a shame. I'm sure supplementary material does, but you know, I don't love the franchise so much that I want to delve into all of that. But I might watch a video on it every now and then. I think like her motives and everything else in the one chapter in which we get to have her is great. I think she sets Saihara on a nice journey of, you know, sticking to his search for truth, you know. And she's a lot of fun as a main character for when we have her. So I think there's not much to not like. I think Kaito, probably also a second round draft, is only really higher because he sticks around for more, right? I wouldn't call him my favorite character by any means, but I think what he does for the plot of the game is so good that I have to put him up here. Like the way he acts as like an emotional conduit and like an intuitive analyst of both Harumaki and what do you call it? Shuichi, right? The way he even at times is a victim of being too emotional and especially like the way he goes out following Kokichi's plan, but not unable to get it to succeed, but sort of knowing that the plan couldn't succeed and then giving it up as well. I think he does a lot of great things for the story and for himself as well. Like, not a perfect character, which makes him a great character in a manner of speaking. You know what I mean? Like, I think the fact that he is sort of impulsive, emotional, but yet, despite being so sort of hot-headed in some ways, has a great like analysis of what makes the main cast of the game tick, and is thus able to really accelerate our own emotional understanding as Shuichi and Harumaki, right? Which I think is fun. Kyoko is the best. I love Kyoko so much. I love the cool-headedness, the fact that she does get emotionally affected. She just keeps it in. Her rare moments of letting us see behind the veil. Her mystery. It's everything I love. Her elegance as well. The leather. Do I need to say more? Is she higher up because she's hot? Yes. Deal with it. That's how it works. So that's what Byakuya is here as well, bro. What, you don't think Byakuya is hot? Get with the fucking times. Anyway, I could, like, her and Makoto's little dynamic is sort of similar to Kaito. He's like not very, he's got a lot of intuition, and he's got a lot of hope. And she's very like analytical and not very like outwardly emotional, but does have emotions. So we kind of bring that out of her at times, which I like and would love to have seen more of for sure. Kirumi is kind of interesting, probably at the bottom of kind of interesting, but I think above just there, the fact that she's like so down to serving that it's actually like a bit like the fact that she's the ultimate maid, right? She serves, but she learns that she's actually the prime minister. Ironic, it's like the politician also serving the people. It's kind of like her whole arc is kind of a bit on like a character who serves, right? So she's beyond just there because of that as well. I think interesting enough to be above like the riffraff, which is like the bottom tier. And I certainly, being strongly opinionated as well in the moments that we have of her, especially down the stretch. And then when we find out after she's learned her motive, like what she did, being driven in the service as well, right? So kind of interesting. Celeste is, I think, a bit more, because she sticks around a bit longer as well. So it's hard to judge a character to like by their potential being beyond the scope of the game, especially when I'm not playing their like the fan mode or the like whatever you want to call it, school life mode. It's whatever, right? Oma's goated. I love Oma. Kokichi, the supreme leader of chaos. He literally fucks with everything just because he can. Tomfoolery to the end. Doesn't really ever like, even though he plays it up to do like the Remnant of Despair bit and Aura farms a hell of a lot, doesn't actually do that much evil shenanigans, right? In a sense, Byakuya did more than he did, because Byakuya like dressed up a murder scene just because he wanted to make things more interesting. Oma, like, he kills Miu because Miu was trying to kill him, and he uses Gonta to do so, taking advantage of like the information about the outside world that Gonta learns about, right? So kind of a constant thorn in our side during the whole game. His final plot, very Nagito-esque, in trying to, ultimately fool everybody, including Monokuma. His whole ploy was to defeat the mastermind of the whole game. And to the end, we never know how much of him was serious and how much of him was joking. We never know how much of him is truly him. But what we know, like from his real, like his character motivations, in a sense, because he's of course a constructed character, is that, like in the universe constructed, right, fictional in universe, is that him and his like band of merry, his dice organization basically just does like petty pranks and stuff, doesn't really do anything serious. So I mean, I'm a big fan of him, pretty much overall. Maybe the best antagonist style character. He's not quite an antagonist, he's kind of an antagonist, I guess, but I love him a lot. He's just bratty. I'm a fan of bratty characters, you know? What can I say? Korekyo is just there. Almost kind of interesting, but gets demoted because of the way that he kills. In fact, he's not annoying to me, but maybe the worst just there character. Because he could have been interesting and then they ruined him at the end by essentially having his twist be, my sister is inside me and I love her and she is what I kill for, which is like, all of that is fine. It's literally just that they did it in the last like half section of a trial to be the motive for killing, which is like fine, whatever. I guess you ran out of ideas and had to add a chapter into the game to reach quota. Sure, buddy, okay? Sure. Just disappointing. But before that, he was sort of like turned on by humanity itself type of character, which I much preferred. Leon 11037, certainly annoying but tolerable. Is he better than Gundam? Probably. He's probably like right there, dies early, is whatever. I don't really care. My hero is maybe at the bottom of kind of interesting or just cute. Plain girl, a little what do you call it? She kind of constantly is talking about like traditional wife-husband duties or something, if I remember correctly. But I don't know, she's a bit above just there because of the whole plot of like the Twilight Syndrome situation, and she's pretty involved and she is kind of cute, so like whatever, you know, whatever. Himiko is, I think, safely in the tier of like characters that make it to the end. But also, she has her own little character arc. She gets over her like perma depression. Doesn't get over it, but through the deaths of like her friends and everything else, she is finally able to find that motivation to do something. And I think the cutest thing is how she actually is constantly driven and motivated to the extent that she's forcing it, right? Oh, you can see that she's forcing it in like her dialogue lines, how in the trials she's really putting a front of being energetic, but she's really trying, right? And I think that's that earnestness and the fact that it feels earned as a result of that. It doesn't feel like she instantly transforms, but it's really like an effort that she has to put in to put like that gung-ho, which she doesn't have naturally, but wants to be that kind of person, which I think is very endearing. And she makes cute noises, which is another reason I love her. Simple enough. Harumaki, top shelf. Monokuma is just gonna be there. I don't know where to put Monokuma. Monokuma might be higher or lower. I like her a lot. You know, breaking down her sort of walls, and the funny thing is that she's an assassin, but she's not an assassin in reality. But because she makes it to the end and realizes how everything is a lie, it actually adds another dimension to like how she wants to live life, right? That she goes through a character arc, a fictional character arc of potentially reducing the like strength of her emotional walls around her, you know, mind, right? Loosening up and talking to us like me, not me, I guess, but when I say me, I'm talking about Saihara, Shuichi, and Kaito in that like little trio they had. The fact that she like was written to fall for Kaito and did do that, and then learnt about the fact that that's not real, but still is, driven alongside everyone else in the end of that game to, put an end to the charade of the killing game, right? I think it's all very well done. The fact that initially she's very like standoffish and distant, and then we get a little back and forth, and then we slowly like get to her core, and then also the fact that we have a bit of a rift in chapter 5 because of the events and the like belief that we have that Kaito's alive that she doesn't want to engage in and everything. Like, it's a lot of ups and downs and it's good character work, and I like her a lot because of that. Also, she's cute, and when she says, "Do you want to die with a smile on her face?" I can't resist. It's the simple things in life. Makoto, another goat. He gets bonus points because he gets to, like the rest of the cast, like these two. He may be the weakest of the three, but he gets to aura farm by coming back in the end of 2 and being essentially like the godfather of hope, in a manner of speaking, right? Look at that he sort of like steers the Future Foundation, like joins their ranks, and I'm not exactly sure what he does. He just sort of like cleans up shop in that universe, right? But by literally all he does is hope, and that's all you need, right? And it's sort of better. Like, he's like literally just a better version of Hajime in pretty much every way. He's an average nothing kind of guy, but that allows him to have hope, right? That his biggest strength is just never losing faith. And the thing is, Danganronpa 1 is the only game, the only like in-universe where it feels like they are genuinely trapped and genuinely unraveling a mystery. And that's why it has its own unique charm. I say like 3 has a different sort of like layered complexity to it, whereas 1 is very straightforwardly like solving a mystery trapped in your own creation type of situation. I suppose that probably learn a bit later in the game, but I don't know. I just like Makoto as a main character quite a lot, and him and Kyoko's like back and forth is very cute, and I wish that was official in more of a like established capacity. But whatever, that's me. Robo Maruf, useless character. I'm gonna put both of them. He gets actually a bit more interesting when he's a robot, funnily enough. But the waste of a character, yells, is annoying, doesn't do anything. Literally makes the game worse by existing. Why did they have to do this to us? Waste of space character. Just the less said about Nekomaru and how annoyed I am by his existence, the better, I think. Tsumiki, second, definitely top shelf of like, I love her. Her like, before she gets the disease and gets like despair maxed, she is so cute and so like endearing and kind of a crazy super sub. But it's like, and then they do the thing where it's actually then you feel bad for her because you spend some time with her in the like free time segments, and it's sort of like revealed that nobody fucks with her, and she basically is seeking out, and she sought out any kind of attention, even if it was abusive, and that's how she ended up this way. But you can empathize with that while simultaneously being very attracted to the character. I think you have to layer that complexity. That kind of thing happened in real life too, whatever, right? But anyway, she's just very endearing to me, and I love her. And she was done dirty by the ending of her chapter for sure, but that won't stop me from loving her. I'm a big fan of Tsumiki Mikan for sure. And the fact that she always falls over and exposes herself. It's a great bit. I love it. Miu, maybe the bottom shelf of I love them. This is like my controversial pick, but I think the game sort of needed a crude, gross, sexually forward character, especially a woman, which is just like just makes everything better in my opinion. And I think a lot of people would be pissed off by her. She has her laugh is annoying, and her like abrasive front is very annoying. But then it never gets old to me when you like break that facade, and then she goes all like uwu mode basically. She doesn't literally do that, but she basically does that. And I always like the Kokichi Iruma back and forth when he calls her horrible names and she just like essentially nuts on stage, which is just great. I just love it. This is like my personal pick. This is like my, dealer's choice of horniness, basically. But I can understand putting her all the way down here if that's your preference. I can comprehend it. I don't agree with you, to be clear. That's why this is my tier list. Mondo is borderline here, but his motives are annoying but tolerable. Actually, he might go to just there. I don't really believe his whole like shtick backstory. I'm tempted to. I think if I'm looking at this with a clear head, he's better than all of these. These two are like, I mean, you don't really count because you exist for like 1.5 chapters, 2 chapters, right? But I think he's more tolerable. And actually, his motive isn't as bad as I thought on first glance. Like, if I take it at face value, it's actually not bad. And that puts him in just their tier. In fact, he's probably right there. Right here. Akane does nothing. You're in the same boat, in my opinion. Anyway, Nagito is the GOAT. Let's not even mince any words. He may be top 3 characters of all time. Who knows? In fact, this order seems pretty appropriate to me, but now we're just picking at things if I have to choose. What the fuck is going on? I love his whole shtick. I love his crazy voice. I played the whole game with the Japanese voices, which pisses me the fuck off when I'm looking for people who played the game and everyone played it in English. Why did everyone play it in English? I know the English dub is good for dub standards, but I don't give a fuck. I'm weebing out. I'm otaku mode pilled, etc., etc. My soapbox is getting rickety, but I don't know. I just love him. I love what he brings. He single-handedly saves the game from being boring. Even though it is at times boring. And his whole his whole mystery, who am I gonna ally with, and then when he ultimately discovers the truth of the matter, literally just killing himself in the most brutal way possible. And partially it's sort of implied, I don't know if it was stated or implied, maybe both, that he tortured himself because he learned the kind of horrible things that he did as a remnant of despair. And was I no longer am attached to that. So I think the Nagito that we get is so I just love the way he exudes that sort of element of chaos, and the way in Trials he's basically leading us by the hand to the truth, but is also obscuring elements and the back and forth, and the twist he gets after learning everyone is a remnant of despair and is not actually a symbol of hope that he once thought everyone was, and losing faith in all of us. It's also a lot of fun. So basically everything about Naruto. Also, he's just hot as fuck. What are we? Let's be honest. Everybody would have sex with Naruto. Come on, let's be upfront here. Peko Yama Peko. Help up kinda interesting, I would say. She's not quite an I love it tier, but her little backstory with Kuzuryu brings him into the fray of interestingness. Right. I think if I'm being honest, it's something like this. Yeah, sure. My brother. You get brother points by being my bro. But yeah. Peko doesn't stay around for very long. Motive is straightforward. There's not very much to say about her. I wish we could have had a bit more time. I mean, this is kind of like, it reminds me, it's like 1% of the power of Maya in Marvel Love Alternative. 1%, to be clear. Maya is great. And doesn't even, the fact that you even get a drop of Maya is like a high praise, let's put it that way. But that sort of loyal servant who never sees who was raised in sort of almost indentured servitude, but basically like never in a position to be anything but at all, and then not seeing that she was, loved the whole time, and he wanted her to live for herself, but she never saw that type of thing. I like that dynamic. He doesn't get enough time to really put it into action, but it's interesting enough to be here. Rantaro is, I love him quite a bit. He doesn't deserve to be this high because he doesn't exist for very long, but I think he adds a lot of intrigue and mystery, and he is just hot. That's like my main reason for him being this high. But Kaede may be a bit too high. Something like this, I think. His like aura of mystery, his like it's kind of a fuckboy aesthetic, but I love it for him and for me. It's just so good. I don't know. It's a very alluring, mysterious character. Even now, we don't really know that much about him, apart from like that he survived one before, right? And what was he? I forget what ultimate. He was the ultimate survivor, right? But I don't know what he must have been. A different kind of ultimate before that, but that's all random. Of course, it's a fake backstory. It doesn't matter, but I don't know. We don't know enough about him, but I just like him so much that I have to put him up here. That's literally all my justification is. Ryoma is honestly kind of interesting. Pretty interesting now that I'm putting him in analytical points, right? The idea that he was like a tennis pro turned prisoner after being used in like an assassination plot or whatever. And then sort of doesn't have the will to live, doesn't have anyone or anything to live for, right? I think he says very poignant and like on topic things, always sort of useful, and even in death, like sort of a very, very hopeless and sad story of a character, which I think is very compelling to me. Doesn't stick around for long enough to have much more than that, but I like him quite a bit, to be honest. I mean, maybe even like him more than Keeble. Peko maybe right there. I'm a fan of what the kind of energy that Ryoma brought to the game, right? He was pretty integral, right? I think so. He was sort of a reality check kind of guy. Maybe a bit too hopeless, but was very grounded and matter of fact, which is sort of a nice change of pace in this chaotic mix of characters. I think Sakura is like on a similar tier, right? Maybe a bit less interesting, but the way she like ended her own life, the whole sort of like blackmailed by Monokuma situation, the fact that she was an inside piece but didn't cooperate or didn't have to cooperate, but then eventually fulfilled the spirit by ending her own life. The like sort of stoic nature that she provided, I think it was all very nice. It was again a very useful piece, but nothing like, it's hard for you to be up here in these two characters. You basically have to be like attuned to my kind of character or very integral to the plot of the games to a level where I have to promote you, like Kaito, for instance, or Kuzuryu, where your character is compelling enough to be promoted, or you're just cute, which is like I am who I am. There's like, you have people have to just like cute things, you know. Don't be ashamed of that. Is my soapbox. It's back. Sayaka is just there. She's actually, you know what? I'll put her in the bottom of kind of interesting. She's a decent for a first victim. It's a decent motive, all things considered. It's better than the second game, and it's worse than the third game. It's fine. Sayaka's motive is decent. We knew her. She's like, you know, she provides a good stepping stone for Makoto, which is really all she does, which puts her in that tier. Shuichi is goated. He may be the best. You know, I'll put him up here. I think he's such a, like, his whole arc is so poignant. Even if he maybe doesn't have the coolest moments, he's not made of hype moments. He's got a real character arc. In some sense, his arc is the arc of the game and is the arc of the series, in a manner of speaking, in the quest for truth, to the point where his literal backstory is also a lie, which is the truth that he discovers, and yet he continues, right? That's something very powerful, I think. So I'm a huge fan of like his whole thing, basically. And then the first chapter, he takes his hat off. It's like a metaphorical, literal, like, you know, lift your eyes and look around type situation. But regardless, we're gonna get to some terrible characters. Kazuichi, terrible. Had one moment where he was good, where he said his fetish was that he was looking at the structure of girls, like, because it was a mechanic, so he looked at like the makeup on them. We're back moment. But yeah, so back. Anyway, as I was saying, Kazuichi, waste of space, waste of time, simps after Sonia, and that's the most interesting part about him. But he's just constantly whining, complaining, and he's stupid, even though he's supposed to be a mechanic, which I guess doesn't guarantee intelligence, whatever. Whatever. My point being is just he didn't deserve to make it to the end. Just always annoying, never helpful, uninteresting. What else can I even say? I wore my patience down to the bone, man. He's better than these guys, I think, but like barely. Would really didn't have to be there. Sonya is the epitome of just there. Does absolutely nothing good or bad the whole game. Forgettable character. Her most interesting trait is that she's turned on by serial killers, which is really not that uncommon for women. If you look at like Ted Bundy type stuff, which is like perfectly fine. I allow. It's not that bad. I needed to give permission, but I mean, come on, that's pretty bog standard stuff in my view. But anyway, Tenko is actually a pretty good character, all things considered. She's got like, I forget the term. She's scared of men. The translation of her saying Danshi constantly as degenerate male is probably a little bit too harsh for her like tone. Then again, you wouldn't usually just call people Danshi. Danshi, like, sure is Chinese, I think. Sure. I don't speak Chinese. Maybe one day. Also, it will be Mandarin. Chinese is not a language, technically speaking. But is it a bit annoying? Yes, but it's pretty funny, especially because she doesn't really commit to the bit that much. She's perfectly fine with Shuichi. She's not really got that much of a problem with Gonta, for instance. It's mostly just like a bit, all things considered, which is, you know, a pretty decent bit. She's crushing on Himiko, which is also, it's a good bit. They should have done that more. It's a shame that she had to die for her to grow as a character, but you know what? It works. All things considered, I quite like her. She's good. She's good comedic relief, and her bit isn't too tired that I'm like annoyed by it. You know, which is hard to say in this game franchise for a bit to not be tired. And her facial expression variety is also quite funny. The artists, what the hell? Did I just ruin my whole tier list? No, it's all good. I didn't do anything wrong. But yes, she's just kind of interesting, you know. And she isn't. I think she never like gets in the way of much. And again, her facial expressions are funny. That's all it takes, really. You're actually maybe the most tolerable. I'm the like pervert character. I don't know why they made him tiny. I guess it's fine. His motivation for killing was not like believable at all. His perversion is probably like a lot of people probably not a big fan of it. I don't mind it. In fact, I can agree with him because I'm on the outside looking in, and he's on the inside, so he can't say that, but I can say that. Which is an important rule for those who know. But he's not really that interesting of a character. But he's certainly annoying, even to me, and I can't say I really care. That being said, I think I have to rank him above. You know, I think you have to go here because you're annoying on purpose, so it's kind of unfair for you to be here. But I certainly prefer you to religious zealot, annoying girl who never learns or grows as a character. Really, guy who kills and is just kind of a nothing burger, Chunibyo guy, and well, Taka maybe doesn't deserve to be that low. Actually, I think he can probably just go at the top there. In fact, he's maybe the top of annoying but tolerable. before he transforms and becomes truly annoying and terrible. But anyway, this is my okay. First things first. You're the worst character in the entire franchise. You do nothing. The only reason you become tolerable is because you go through the 5 stages of grief and then you accept that they would not do anything with this character. He does not kill anybody. He does not do. Okay, what the fuck? The bot took this long to show up in my damn chat, bro. Chill. He doesn't. He's not a victim. His ultimate ability isn't even real. He doesn't do anything with it. At least Anji like paints and prays or whatever. He basically distracts, is annoying, is stupid, makes the game take longer for no reason, and survives to the end of the game. Don't know why they did this. Like, it's inexplicable to me. But, you know, anyway. Genocida / Genocide Jack / Genocide Jill. I'm gonna put him like this, and you'll understand why, right? I think as Toko by herself, she's cute to me, although she is definitely like crazy, even by her lonesome, right? I mean, look at that face, but I'm a sucker for that face. Let's put it that way. And twin tails / pigtails, I don't know what you call them when they're braided. I think they're called pigtails when they're braided and twin tails when they're not braided. So she has twin tails and she has pigtails. But I like them both. It's one of those things that's really hard to pull off in real life, but in anime it just works easy. But anyway. I was definitely on the I can fix her line of thinking, and then she ended up being the genocider, who is, I love them a lot because of the craziness that they bring. The bit never gets old, in my opinion, and the fact that, like, for all intents and purposes throughout the game that we have the genocider, like, within us, within like the trials and investigating sections and everything, they're actually fairly cooperative and like humorous. It sounds very dry when I put it that way, but like, it's not like the bit is I kill people, haha. It's actually like kind of hilarious to me, and that's why. And that like, she basically is like, yeah, I'm the serial killer, but I'm not killing anyone in here because I can't do it the way I would like to do it. And there are no cute boys or cute girls that she kills. Either way, they didn't exist. So she just kind of hangs around, makes crazy noises and crazy faces, which I like a lot. You know? What can I say? I'm a sucker for that, like, craziness. I think in the same view, like, all of these 3 characters are basically different like tiers of quirkiness. She is like pure, safe, like, you know, quirkiness. She is like horny quirkiness, and she is crazy quirkiness. And you know, what can I say? I've got a type, huh? So that's why she's up here, and Toko herself is kind of down there. Cause by herself, I think she's designed cute, but on the inside is more like, you know, unsettlingly crazy, and like kind of antisocial / misanthropic. I don't know what else you would even really attribute to, but that's the gist of it. And I think, oh yeah, we have Tsumugi, aka the mastermind of the final. I mean, as her own character, she's kind of just there. As the mastermind, hey, honestly, I think she's bang in the middle. A bit above the middle, to be fair. Somewhat interesting. The cosplay, like, bit before she becomes the mastermind. I guess she was always, but before she, like, we know her as that. She's just pretty much like the like, she makes a bit of herself as being plain, despite, you know, obviously being shapely and pretty. She what do you call it? She's very, like, particular about like her opinions on fandoms and cosplaying characters and being true to yourself in that, like, for the character's sake, not for your sake, that stuff, which I find it, you know, whether I kind of agree, but it's more about, like, I like the kind of character that has those kinds of opinions, like that kind of nature of being opinionated in that sense, right? And I think it's kind of impossible to rate Tsumugi as the imposter / mastermind when she basically is every character at the same time and is more or less the abstract concept of the mastermind at that point. And I think even then she's, like, kind of interesting. She's basically is like a upper management employee of the Danganronpa project that is really attached to it, to the point of being in the game this whole time and being so attached to it that she literally is, like, she's kind of satisfied by the way it ends, even after everything is sort of lost and destroyed, right? And she loses, like, the attempt to force the continuation of the Danganronpa, like, killing games. Even then, she's like, just like the games, it ended. And then she also sort of leaves an ambiguous point. It's like, did it happen? Was it a game? Was it not a game? We don't even know. I'm not even sure if it, in supplementary material, it ever gets, like, explicitly explained, you know? I guess also I should, so that's why she's there. I didn't address putting Monokuma here, like, in detail, but just to round this off, I love the noise, I love the design. It's so simple yet so good. I want a Monokuma in my room. I want to look at him and say upupu. And in the first two games, the voice acting is really good. I like it in the third game as well. It's something kind of fresh. And the monocubs, if they were here, I think they would all go into the second round draft as one, because I like it's like a little sketch routine bit. Everyone's got a trope and they just go back and forth. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's my tier list of characters in Danganronpa. V1, 2, and 3. I didn't play the Despair Girls and I didn't watch the anime, if there's any anime exclusive characters. But yeah, that's all I got. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitch if you're so inclined, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I suppose. That's all I got for you. See you next time. Enjoy.